Hello, Pittsburgh, and welcome to another episode of The Coston Show. I'm Roland J. Coston Criswell.
And I'm Bethany Criswell. And first I want to say thank you once again to all our viewers out there sending us our messages and comments and questions and also topics for our guests on our Facebook page at The Coston Show. Today we have a great show for you. We have defense attorney Blaine Jones joining us.
Before we have Blaine Jones come on, though, I'm going to do a pre-need segment on cemetery information. So after the pre-need segment, we're going to have defense attorney Blaine Jones.
We've got a big problem, and we need your help.
It's called sexual assault, and it has to stop.
We have to stop it. So listen up.
If she doesn't consent, or if she can't consent,
it's a crime. It's wrong.
We need all of you to be part of the solution. This is about respect. It's about responsibility.
It's up to all of us to put an end to sexual assault. And that starts with you.
Because one is too many.
Welcome to the pre-need portion of the Coston Show. Today we are discussing cemetery property and cemetery pre-need. So that being said, let me get comfortable with you all because I have a bone to pick. Just yesterday I was sitting down with a family who came into the funeral home to make pre-arrangements, and like many other cases, they said, well, Roland, please review our cemetery information. So I said, okay. Let me call the cemetery for you. And when I called the cemetery, I called them and I said, well, what does this lady that I'm sitting with, what does she exactly own? They said, well, Roland, she owns a grave. Great, we want you to pre-purchase your graves. They said she owns a headstone to be placed on a grave. That's good. She owns a vault as well. That's excellent. They said, but she doesn't own or she has not paid for her opening and closing. And I see this time and time and time again. And that's why I'm glad we had a Coston Show, so I can share with you all information. Oftentimes, many people own cemetery property. They own a grave, they own a vault, they may even own caskets. Cemeteries now sell caskets, but they do not own their opening and closing. Why is that? Well, let's be honest about it. The cemeteries know that the opening and closing fees are always increasing. So this particular individual, even though she may have paid approximately $800 for a grave back in 1988, and the opening and closing at that time, if she would have prepaid, it was approximately $800. Now the opening and closing has more than doubled to around $1,800. So today I want to share with you regarding opening and closing fees at cemetery. Be sure if you're going to pay for your cemetery expenses, the two things you want to pay for are the grave and the opening and closing fee. Do not pay for anything else until you pay that opening and closing fee. That being said, what are some of your options in the city of Pittsburgh? Let me ask you, are you a veteran? If you're a veteran, did you know that you are eligible for a free grave as well as a free opening and closing and a free vault at the National Cemetery of the Alleghenies? Once again, if you're a veteran, the National Cemetery of the Alleghenies, which is in Bridgeville, is open to all veterans and their spouses. So how do you prepare for that? Well, first and foremost, you should have the Veterans Honorable Discharge. That is called a DD2-14. You don't need a DD2-14, but it makes it a lot easier to schedule the interments at the National Cemetery of the Allegheny. So if you want to get prepared for going to the National Cemetery of the Allegheny, make sure you have a DD2-14. If you don't have a DD2-14, which is an honorable discharge, you can often contact the National Archives on their website, and the National Archives will help you get you or your spouse's DD2-14. Now, that being said, a lot of times individuals come to me as a funeral director and want cemetery information at the time that they're pre-needing their funeral arrangements or someone has passed away. Why do you wait? The funeral directors are in your community. We belong to your churches. We belong to your social organizations. We belong to your fraternities. You see us in the community. My advice to you is when you go to a cemetery and you begin the process of purchasing a grave, ask a cemeterian to write up a quote for you. Then bring it back to the funeral director and say, okay, does this all look right? So I can say to you, it doesn't look right. You haven't paid your opening and closing. So don't wait until what we call at need when someone has died to bring your paperwork into the funeral home. I oftentimes think to myself, why did this person wait until at need to ask me their opinion of what they did at the cemetery? Bring your information in to me ahead of time or to your local funeral director and look over that information. That's a lot of information that I shared with you this week. One last thing, there's currently a House Bill 2458 regarding cemetery regulations. And I encourage everyone to call their state representative, whether it's State Representative Ed Gainey at 717-783-1017. Once again, it's State Rep Ed Gainey at 717-783-1017, or Jake Wheatley at 717-783-3783. House Bill 2458 states that as funeral directors, we have to put 100% of the funds that you give to us for pre-need into a trust account. Cemeteries currently, they only have to put 70% of those funds into a trust account, and they're able to put 30% into investments. HB 2458 also allows for the cancellation of the contract by the consumer. So right now, if you wanted to cancel your pre-need contract at a cemetery, you can cancel the contract, but they're going to keep your money. Versus funeral homes, if you cancel your pre-need contract at a funeral home, that money has to be refunded to you. Lastly, HB 2458 mandates that interest follows principal so that no monies are accessed until the time of need. So make sure you call your state representatives and ask them and encourage them to support House Bill 2458. Thank you for joining me for this week's pre-need portion.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know, wherever you are.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're going to beat them and bust them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad today. Call or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
Welcome back to the Coston Show. We have joining us today defense attorney Blaine Jones. Welcome to the Coston Show.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming, Blaine. You've earned a reputation in Pittsburgh as Pittsburgh's premier criminal defense attorney, but many people don't know that your firm also practices wrongful death and personal injury. What is wrongful death and personal injury?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the kind words. I really appreciate it. You know, basically, wrongful death is exactly that. I tell my clients and I tell a lot of people, I think attorneys a lot of the time, we kind of overthink things and we try to make things more complicated than what they are. But just think about the words. They're pretty self-explanatory. Personal injury. You've been injured. It's just a matter of whether or not you can basically seek some type of compensation against the person that possibly injured you. And wrongful death, a death that occurred that should not have occurred. I've been practicing criminal law for over 10 years and personal injury. I actually started personal injury before criminal law. I came back here in 2003 from California, from law school in San Francisco, and I started working at a small personal injury firm, but at the time I was not licensed as an attorney, so I was doing more paralegal, clerical type of work, but that was document gathering, it was contacting physicians, it was doing all those types of things, and then I went into my criminal defense career, and in 2008 when I started my own firm, we started doing both personal injury and criminal defense. It just so happens, you know, as you said, we have a reputation as a criminal defense firm, I think mainly because we get a lot of the cases that are considered high-profile cases. And, you know, but we've done some very good work for our clients on a personal injury setting as well.
Well, Blaine, can you tell our viewers, how do you know if you have a case?
You know, that's an excellent question, Bethany. I think it's difficult for the layperson, because I get a lot of people saying, well, you know, I think I have something, but I don't really want to go to a lawyer. You know, I think it's really just, it's your intuition. A lot of the time we know right from wrong in general in our lives. If you think you have been wronged in some way, then why not seek out the services of an attorney? What a lot of people don't realize, when it comes to personal injury law, it's contingency fee for the most part. What that means is you don't have to put any money down. You can come to my office, you can say, hey, Blaine, this is what happened to me. I was in my car, someone rear-ended me, I couldn't go to work for X amount of days, I'm having trouble with my back, et cetera, and I'll tell you whether or not I think you have a civil claim.
Well, I'm glad you answered my next question. What are the normal fees to retain an attorney? And you said that most of the times that you all will sit down and advise someone before there's any fees discussed?
You know, that's correct, Roland, but it is very confusing, guys. Basically, look at it like this. You have criminal law on one hand, the left hand, and then you have personal injury law or civil law on the right hand. When it comes to the right hand, personal injury law, this is contingency fee. In other words, as the example I just used, in the car accident, I'm not getting any money for you unless we can basically either get a judgment or settle the case and get some money or something in that form. You don't have to pay me anything. What you would have to pay though, are the fees associated with trying to bring about justice, so to speak. But you have to pay no upfront fee. In my firm and in most firms, it's 33.33% of whatever we recover. If we have to file a complaint, then it goes up because that's a little bit more work. Conversely, on the left hand is criminal law. Now, criminal law, we have in my firm, and in most firms, I think in the city of Pittsburgh, you have what's called a retainer. And it's just that. You're paying money down to retain the firm. So there is an upfront fee. So criminal law, yes, upfront fee. Personal injury law, no upfront fee, contingency fee.
For personal injury and wrongful death cases, what are some of the determining factors that determine the factor or the value of a case?
That's a great question. You know, one of the things that my firm looks at in particular when it comes to personal injury cases is if a person calls and it's an auto accident, one of the first questions we'll ask is, what type of insurance do you have? Do you have full tort? Do you have limited tort? If you have limited tort, unfortunately, we don't work with you. You got to have full tort. Reason being, you can go after pain and suffering and those types of injuries and those types of things. Whereas with limited tort, it's just that, it's limited. So therefore, it's not a viable option. It's not a viable case for us. So, you know, people, when it comes to insurance premiums and those types of things, you may think that, you know, I want to get the limited tort option because it doesn't cost as much. But God forbid something happens, in the long run, you're really shortchanging yourself.
Well, I have a question about wrongful deaths. Like, what are some of the cases that you've seen in the past on wrongful deaths?
Well, I can tell you a case I worked on. I had a case, it was kind of a cross almost. It was of a young lady, and this was years ago, and she went out on a date with this young man, first date. And unfortunately, he drove over a cliff, and she was instantly killed. And he had limited tort. So we had to go after her policy. We couldn't file a wrongful death action on that because he had no money. There was nothing to go after. So, you know, wrongful death is like I said, it's just that, but you have to figure out where you're going to go. If it's an auto accident, you can go after the insurance policy. If it's in a home, you go after the homeowner's insurance policy. If it's a rich person in America, then maybe you can go after them as an individual. But it's tricky.
Are there statutes of limitations in Pennsylvania for wrongful death suits or personal injury suits?
Outstanding question. Yes, there are. The statute of limitations is 2 years. But what is the statute of limitations? A statute of limitations is basically a time clock. So from the date of that accident or the date of the death, you have 2 years to file suit.
That's excellent information. Right now we're going to go to a break, and when we come back from the break, we're going to have more from criminal defense attorney, wrongful death attorney, and personal injury attorney. Is there any other attorney?
That's a mouthful. I think that's good.
Yes, you're right. Blaine Jones. Join us when we come back. Hello and welcome back to the Coston Show. Today we have with us attorney Blaine Jones. Because this is the Coston Show and is sponsored by Coston Funeral Home, we decided to ask attorney Blaine Jones, who's best known in Pittsburgh for criminal defense, to come on and talk about wrongful death and personal injury.
I have a question for you, Blaine.
Sure.
I know how you made the comment about Denzel Washington, and every time you watch one of his movies, he is engrossed in character, and you really believe that he is that character.
Right.
I know that when you, I know you're just coming off of a major win, and I know that when you are involved in your cases, you eat, sleep, and breathe that case. So can you just walk us through that?
Absolutely. I just had a trial. I just had an attempted murder, attempted homicide trial, and it was, I believe, about 5 days. And unfortunately, got a not guilty verdict across the board, and my client was looking at 20 to 40 years. So it's very serious. But basically, Bethany, you know, when I go into trial mode, I learned years ago when I was in law school from my old school, law school professor. He said, you know, part of being a trial attorney, an effective advocate for your client, is truly believing what you're arguing. Because if you're not truly believing it, how's someone else going to believe it? So you have to, it's like being an actor. You have to own the role. You have to own what you're saying. So, you know, when I go into trial mode, as my wife and kids know, you know, I don't watch TV. I don't know anything that's going on with the news. I don't listen to the radio. I'm with my kids and my wife and all that good stuff. But I'm really, as I say, I go into my cave. And I don't come out until, you know, the trial is done. I don't really sleep, because I can't rest. My brain, I may be physically tired, but my brain won't allow me to shut down. So, you know, it finished yesterday, so I'm finally out of the cave and the sunshine feels nice on me. But, you know, as you were saying, or as I was saying to you, I really try to own what I'm saying, because I need those 12 people to believe me with all of my heart and soul, or my client's not gonna walk out of that courtroom. So I truly give it my all.
Well, that's great to hear, because unfortunately, I've had to retain your services for people that I love. And so I'm glad to hear that, because I know that in the funeral profession that we strive at our firm to give every family we serve 100%. And it's refreshing to hear from another professional that you give 100% when you're serving a client.
No, I think you have to, and you know, we've gotten very good results for friends of yours, of course, and you listen, you all's reputation precedes you. That's why I'm honored to be on your show today. But when it comes down to it, guys, I look at it like this: my family's from Aliquippa, and you know, we don't come from money. And if someone's going to come in my office and pay me their hard-earned dollars to represent one of their loved ones, you're getting my all. Now, it's come at the expense of a lot of sacrifice. You know, I don't have friends all like that. I don't do a lot. And not that I'm complaining, because the good Lord has shined his light upon me, and I'm so blessed. But you know, I want to be the best. I didn't put on my suit today and come in this studio so I could be the second best guest you've ever had. I'm here to be the best guest you've ever had. And quite frankly, I take that same attitude when I walk in the courtroom in Allegheny County Courthouse, Beaver County Courthouse. I'm there to be the best ever.
Well, Blaine, every time I talk to you, I enjoy talking to you, because I am always like believing whatever word you say. So I know if I am convinced with every word you say, I'm sure you convince a lot of jury members.
Well, I appreciate it. It's honest. There's nothing disingenuous about it. I'm striving for perfection, guys.
Well, Blaine, we pride ourselves in informing the community, and I can't have you on today without talking about social media and the effects that they may have on cases. So I know social media is very popular, whether it's criminal defense, whether it's wrongful death, whether it's personal injury. Can you talk about social media and the effect that it can have on a case?
You know, it's so funny. When I went to Howard University undergrad, and hey,
you
stop the taping.
I went to Hampton University.
As I was saying, I went to Howard, the Howard University, and I remember my good friend and teammate when we were graduating. My last year of college, my 5th year of school, he said, "Blaine, you need to get this new thing." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "It's called email." I said, "I don't need an email. Get out of here. What is that?" So guys, it's like I'm old, but I'm not that old. So this whole social media thing, the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it really has taken my profession by storm. I've had cases where one of the jobs of my paralegals is basically to sign on the Facebook pages of the alleged victims, because loose lips sink ships, and people invariably talk. In fact, I have a case coming up in which my client is obviously the defendant, and the person alleging that my client's the defendant is sending this person constant text messages, Facebook messages. So our client's sending us all the Facebook. It's revolutionized things, because people don't realize social media is not a private conversation. It's not the three of us going behind the closet and talking. It's open to the public. Right. And like I say to my clients, shut your accounts down, because it'll ruin us.
And then once, a lot of people don't also realize once it's out there, it's out there.
That's completely true. I don't think they realize delete doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't.
Now, Blaine, I'm glad you said that, because oftentimes I'll look at social media or Facebook accounts and I'll think to myself, did that person really say that, or does their attorney know they said that?
Yeah, I don't think the attorney knows. Listen, all I can do with my clients is sit them down and tell them, from my experience of thousands of cases, this is what you should and shouldn't be doing. The majority of the people I deal with are grown-ups, so they're eventually going to make the decision. However, as their attorney, it's my job to present them with viable options. And option number one is always shut down your social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that mess, because it's not helpful to our case. You know, what we do, guys, is we operate in two worlds. We operate in the real world, and the court of public opinion and the court of law. That might be cute in the court of public opinion, but in the court of law, that stuff will get your butt thrown in jail.
Well, I have a question for you. When should, if someone believes they have a case or if something happened, when should they contact you? Like
Great question.
Right afterwards? Or?
Great question, great question. Immediately, whether it's a personal injury, if you just fell, particularly an auto accident, because the insurance companies will call you, whether it's your company or the other person's company, to get your recorded statement. But what people don't realize in that instance, they're not necessarily your friends. Call your lawyer first. Your lawyer's your friend. Whereas the insurance company, a lot of the time, will try to minimize the hit against them. With respect to criminal cases, I can't stress it enough, you guys, and to your viewers, call if you think you're being investigated. Because if the officers come, a lot of the time I think it's only natural that we want to proclaim our innocence. And that's, you may say something that seems innocuous, but in the long run it can hurt you.
Now, if someone wanted to call you or get in contact with you, how do they contact Blaine Jones, whether it's criminal defense, wrongful death, or personal injury? How do they get in contact with attorney Blaine Jones?
Sure, well, they can call the phone number. The telephone number is 412-475-0062, or they can look us up on the web at blainejoneslaw.com, and that's my first name, B-L-A-I-N-E, joneslaw.com.
Can you repeat that phone number, please?
Sure, it's 412-475-0062.
Well, that's all we have today. So thank you so much, Blaine, for joining us. We really appreciate it, and I know our viewers enjoyed the information you shared with us.
Thank you, Attorney Jones.
So we'll be right back after this quick break.
I have a promise to be a doctor. I have a promise to be a chef.
Did you know that what children learn before kindergarten affects how well they will do in school and even what they might be when they grow up? Early education is so important to children's success in school and in life. Talking, reading, and playing with children from birth builds the language, math, and social skills they need to be ready for kindergarten. Choosing quality early learning programs like Keystone Stars, Pre-K Counts, Head Start, Early Intervention, Nurse-Family Partnership, and Parent-Child Home Program provides children with good teachers and learning activities that spark creativity and a love for learning so they can grow and develop. You can help Pennsylvania's young children reach their promise. To learn more, get involved, and tell your story, visit PAPromiseforchildren.com.
Because every child is Pennsylvania's future!